What's going on, y'all? Today I wanted to make a video about 6 very special games I think we should be keeping a close eye on. Some of these games aren't even out yet, and almost all of them are in their early access state. Now, some are more obvious than others, but the others that I have here at the end might surprise you, so stick around for that. Now, I want to start off by defining what I mean by tactical. Now, my definition for this is obviously a first-person shooter in VR, but what makes it tactical is if whether or not the game is grounded in realism and immersion, whether or not you rely on tactical equipment to complete your objectives, and overall how you strategize to find success in the game, which can largely tie to the gameplay loop itself. And that is also something we're going to get into when discussing these games. Now, the first one I'd love to talk about here is Convergence. This is a lesser known game inspired by the Stalker series and Escape from Tarkov. It is a single player PvE game where you go into raids, acquiring loot and completing objectives to progress your playthrough. Now, what makes this game so unique is that there are going to be a handful of maps and are a handful of maps that are procedurally generated. When you go into a raid, whether it's a outdoor storage facility or an underground bunker, the corridors and hallways you move through are never the same thing. Now, maybe sometimes they will be, but they'll be so far apart you'll never notice that. Each raid will feel unique, dynamic, and the things you find in the raid to help you progress are always going to be ever changing. Being that this game is made by a single developer and has already come out with more updates in the last 6 months than big VR games do in like a year, I find this project extremely exciting, extremely unique that it is a PvE Escape from Tarkov like game in VR with procedurally generated maps. So I wanted to make sure to give it a mention here as the first game on our list today. Now, what does make this game tactical is the weapons are based on real life weapons, and you have to use specific equipment to survive certain raids, such as night vision goggles and an entire hazmat suit as to not get radiation poisoning in certain areas of the map, all while engaging in gunfights with enemy factions. It is out in early access on Steam. Unfortunately, it is not on Meta, but I believe it will become available there once full release comes. Right now, the game's got a long way to go, but we can forgive that, being that he is a solo developer that has not been working on this game for honestly all that long and already has this much content out. 3 whole maps, with 2 of them having nighttime variants with different enemy types and different loot to be acquired. So there's a lot there, so I would highly suggest picking the game up and giving it a try for yourself. The second game on our list deserves an honorable mention, and that is Ghost of Tabor. Now, this one is extremely obvious for a tactical first-person shooter in VR because it's probably the most popular. It's managed to build an insane amount of buzz for its fun gameplay loop and its in-game economy that you can leverage to become rich in the game. It is a PvPvE extraction shooter almost entirely based off of Escape from Tarkov. The PvE elements are not very fleshed out yet. The NPCs in the game are pretty terrible, and there's only one type, and they're only really there to give your position away whilst you're fighting other enemy players. The game certainly has a long way to go. It's quite clunky, and it almost feels like nothing in the game works sometimes when you're playing, and that can be quite frustrating in such a high risk, high reward gameplay loop such as Ghost of Tabor. But the game hasn't even been out 2 years, and that goes for its development process. And there are a few things that it really does well, and that is its snowballing effect. When you have a few good raids or one good raid or even a good kill and you acquire very good equipment that helps keep you alive, or a rare key card that can get you into areas with other rare loot, it can provide a snowball effect that helps you survive even further and makes you a lot more money in the long run. And this game feels extremely tactical by allowing you to modify your weapons with scopes, grips, silencers, lasers, and flashlights, and especially with its nighttime raids where you have different tiers of NVGs you can use. You can also change your body armors to a low class body armor that lets you move more quickly, and a higher class body armor that's much bulkier but protects you far more. Now, like I said, all this stuff is in a seriously early development state, especially with how much loot and equipment and moving pieces that are in this game, but the developers are working hard to polish all of these bugs, and even with the bugs that do exist, the game is still extremely fun. So I do highly suggest this game. You can get a lot of playtime out of it, but just know it's got a long ways to go in terms of development and quality of life features and bug fixes. Now, the third game I'd like to mention here is a bit off of the beaten path in terms of realistic tactical first-person shooters, and that is Grim VR. Grim is a game developed by the same developers behind Ghost of Tabor, and it looks to be almost a one-to-one version of Rust, but fully integrated into VR. Now, there are a few differences in the game, such as the setting is fully on Mars, and you'll require spacesuits and things like that when you're not going into these like green biomes that are dotted all over the map. But if you do love Rust, which I know so so many people do, having a dedicated Rust-like game in VR is quite exciting, and I think we should keep a very close eye on it. It is not out yet, but they are accepting playtesters on their Discord that I will link below. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. How can Rust be tactical? And what I can tell you is that Rust can be quite tactical. How you go about raiding enemy bases takes a massive amount of strategy and feels quite tactical when you're playing Rust. You can go at nighttime with MVGs and go very quietly and silently, or you can go loud and proud with rockets and explosives and full-on firefight engagements. You can also wait for the enemy to get out of his base and strategize how to kill him over and over again to gain extra loot, or you can be really sneaky and door camp with nothing but a double barrel shotgun and go deep on his base. It's all about strategy and planning, and that's what makes Rust and is going to make Grim a highly tactical game in my opinion. Now, the next game I'd like to mention is a pretty exciting experience when you actually get your hands on it, and that is Tactical Assault VR. And really, the name does suggest that. It is very tactical, it's very action-packed, and it takes a lot of planning with your team to succeed in any given mission. This is your Ready or Not in VR. You rely heavily on tactical equipment such as snake cameras and door breaching equipment and MVGs, and a huge variety of weapons and attachments that you can use to help diversify your gameplay. Now, this game is typically a team-oriented PvE mission-based tactical shooter, such as Ready or Not or Ground Zero. There is a PvP mode with Team Deathmatch, which I find incredibly enjoyable. I think the game is very slow-paced with your slower movements, and it makes you consider a more strategic style of gameplay and tactics to best your opponent. I think the game really shines in its PvP, even though I feel like they have way more development finished with its PvE mission types, and I do feel like the game is going more for that direction, but its PvP is incredibly unique and fun. It's not just about who can rush and aim better, it is about slow, methodical tactics and team placement in how you take out your enemy. It is an incredibly smooth experience that is highly optimized for your standalone or PC. Now, how they do this is it's more of like a polygraphic type game, but don't let that steer you off, because the gun handling and the gun mechanics are some of the best I've ever felt in a game. It feels realistic, it feels grounded, it feels intuitive, and it'll have you insanely immersed despite their polygraphics. I do highly suggest this game. It is out in early access on the MetaQuest and Steam, but there's a ton of very quality content for you to enjoy, so I highly suggest this one. I believe it's only like 15 bucks Canadian or something like that as well. Pick it up, it's super fun, way better with friends and other teammates, so you can strategize and get these very complex missions done. The AI is incredibly difficult. It's just like Ready or Not. You have to be very ready for them. They one-shot you very quickly, so when you're breaching doors and setting charges and clearing a compound, it makes you focused and strategize accordingly. So please pick this game up. Now, I want to talk about the game I am absolutely the most excited for and probably the most worried for, and that is Veil VR. Now, Veil is currently in its full release, which I can't say for any of the other games I'm mentioning here, but what Veil is a futuristic shooter game with modern day guns, with game modes such as Team Deathmatch, a search and destroy type game mode, capture the flag type game mode, all of the game modes we knew and loved back in the Halo days and the old Call of Duty days. Now, it currently just has these types of game modes. I believe there's 6 of them. I won't go through them right now, but what the game does so well is it's an actual dedicated Unreal Engine 5 on the PC first-person shooter in VR. It's the first of its kind and the only currently that we have. This game works incredibly also on standalone with reduced graphics, but is still a cross-platform game. The PvP in the game is the most competitive I've ever played, and that's what makes the game so incredibly fun. I haven't had this much fun in a game since Halo or Call of Duty. It's really captured that highly competitive nature, and not only that, but the game does it better than anybody else. Not only that, but its guns and mechanics are the best I've felt in any VR game ever. The graphics are the best I've seen in any first-person shooter VR game ever. Having those things combined makes me more of a fan of VR. It feels like I'm playing a game 10 years from now in the future. That's how well polished and well done this game is, and I cannot speak highly enough about it. So it's clear to argue what makes this game feel tactical is its grounding in the realistic weaponry, but what's going to set this game further apart in a tactical kind of way is its future iterations of an extraction mode, a battle royale, a campaign, and a forge mode. But my focus is more on this extraction mode, and what makes extraction modes particularly tactical is how you strategize to survive any given raid, and that can be typically focused on what kind of equipment you're willing to bring into the raid and how you use it to survive. A game this polished releasing an extraction mode such as this is going to be extremely tactical. Obviously, I recommend this game purely for what it is and for what it's about to be. I wish I could tell you more about about this, but I have not had too many conversations with the developers or had the opportunity to ask them on how they're going to do this. Is this going to be an Escape from Tarkov-like mode, such as Ghost of Tabor has with their heavy focus on looting and in-game economy? Or is this going to be more an objective-based extraction shooter like Hunt Showdown, where more people are going to be focused on a singular objective and getting out alive, like how Battle Royales work, where it's kind of like, you know, maybe one or only two teams will find success during a raid? Now, this is a very important question because one of them suggests more of a free-form PMC personal agenda aspect of this type of gameplay, and the other suggests more of a competitive gamified version of this. Now, in a game like Vale, the latter would work extremely well, but personally I hope it's the former, being somebody who's more of a fan of things like Escape from Tarkov and tactical games. But having a game so polished, literally a AAA feeling game, and having an extraction shooter mode for it is going to be incredibly good to have. It's probably going to put a lot of pressure on games like Ghost of War, being that it's the only PvP extraction shooter we have currently, besides Astro Hunters, which kind of just came out. It's really early access and it's more of a space game. It's not really comparable. Again, we have no idea how this is actually going to function or work, if the maps are going to be big or small, but it's very exciting for a game like this regardless. Now, enough rambling on about Vale VR, because I want to move on to the last game, and it's not out yet, but I want to mention it here because we've heard probably the least about it. The developers of this game have gone completely silent just to focus on the game. There's only 2 developers, but the sneak peeks we've had at this game has grown an insane buzz around it, and people are really excited about it. It's probably the most anticipated title in the VR tactical shooter space right now, and that is Geronimo. Now, by the looks of it, Geronimo is going to be a lot like Tactical Assault VR, a PvE mission-based tactical shooter. But the difference from Tactical Assault VR to Geronimo is that Geronimo looks like a PC exclusive title, and the quality looks mind-bending. Very similar to Vale VR, it looks like an Unreal Engine 5 project that focuses on high graphical fidelity and extreme optimization for an unbelievably smooth experience when you're playing. The game looks incredible from the footage. It's no wonder why this game is so anticipated. Me personally, I'm really excited to get my hands on it, but like I said, the developers have completely shut down because it is more of a passion project and a hobby project for them. They don't want to feel pressure to push out updates, what they're going to be working on. They said the next time we're going to be hear anything from their studio is when the game is actually fully ready for release, and that was around, I don't know, six or 8 months ago. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Of course, subscribing to my channel will certainly help because I will be the first one reporting on it as soon as we hear anything from them. So guys, that is my 6 tactical VR shooter games that I think we should be keeping an extremely close eye on, and for many good reasons. Let me know which one you're most excited for down below. Hit the like button and consider subscribing. It'll help me out massively, being the small channel that I am. You can also join the Discord that I have below if you want to talk to me directly and discuss these ideas. We have a community of over 200 people that all love immersive VR games and discuss ones we are extremely excited about, such as what I'm doing in this video. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you're as excited as I am, and have a nice day.